Hey, what's up, everybody? We're here in Berlin, Germany, home of the European LCS, where Fisher and I are getting really excited because it is almost time for the start of the 2016 season.
Yeah, and about a year ago, PTL, they showed this clip.
I'm just super hyped because after all, it's gonna be Worlds. I messed it up. It's Worlds!
And I was sitting at home watching that, and I was like, you know what? This is gonna be my only on air that year. And it was. I didn't say any other time. And I'm tired as well of that being my brand, you know, saying every time and dropping these F-bombs and D-Man making fun of me and all that kind of stuff. So it's done. From now on, no more given.
Good.
On air. Especially because I know it really hurts your heart when I say it, and
like
I'm super
clean
sorry.
show. You know, clean. Get the soap and clean your mouth out. So I'm glad you're done.
Good. I'm done saying from now on. Anyway, we did lose a lot of players in the off-season. We can't really hide it. A lot of the players went over to North America. Same last year, though, where we lost some players, and we still managed to get 2 teams in the semifinals of Worlds.
2 top 4 teams at Worlds. One of them was Fanatic. They had to rebuild last year after losing Peke and Soaz and Cyanide. They built this core around Yellowstar, and now Yellowstar's gone. So the only remaining players for Fnatic is going to be Febiven and Reckless. They've still got that Korean top jungle in Gamsu and Spirit, but you know they've replaced Noxiac with Yellowstar, and I don't think that is quite as strong a player, but they've got a lot of time to prove me wrong.
I mean, I think it's safe to say this team is going to be weaker than the Fnatic we saw last year, especially in the spring split. Remember, though, they had to still learn a lot. If you look, again, at the team we saw last year, because they came in the start in spring, and it was fun to watch. It was like a lot of kills going on, very crazy games. They learned a lot coming into a Messiah and then into Summer Split. This team has to do exactly the same. I do, however, feel there's more competition around them now, especially up in that top 4.
Yeah, I think so too. And, you know, for Fnatic, they lost that support staff who've gone to some of the other top 4 teams. The obvious one is going to be, I think, Origin. I think, you know, this is a team placed semi-final. They've made 1 roster change. Peke was the player who was, I think, struggling more than the rest last year. They brought in Power of Evil, great mechanical player, good, you know, in lane. And I think if he's guided by Amazing and Mythy, this could really unlock PoE. And this is my front runner for top of the table.
I agree 100%. I said it when I wrote about Origin as well. I think this is going to be the best team in spring. I'm almost going to say it's going to be disappointing if they don't at least make top 2. Because, again, they made that one change. Origin as well as a team who are very good at understanding who are the key players. Who do we need to play around at certain stages in the game? So when Pickett didn't have the best split, they didn't try and focus ganks on him. You know, they played around Zoas and Nils, obviously, who's now called Sven, in the bottom lane. I'm not sure why he changed that name, but he did, and that's basically it.
The thing I like about Origin is I want to see how Peke does now that he's stepping back as a manager. And as a team, they're looking in a different direction for their coaching. So I want to see how these players are going to work that out. Talking about some of the support stuff, one of the guys that left Fnatic was Ispa, and he's gone over to H2K. And now H2K, they've also made substitutions. I personally think they won the off-season. Brand new look, Odoame, Yankos, Ryu, Forgiven, and Vanda. I think there's some more threats, and I think this is another team that if they can stabilize their performance with Prolly, with Ispa, that are looking top 3.
I mean, when we look at the teams who made a lot of changes, it is H2K and Vitality, and we were kind of judging both of them, just looking at the players. Now with the addition of Ispa, I definitely agree in the fact they could keep Prolly in H2K. I think that support stuff is fantastic. Rio as well is a guy who's just been getting better and better. If you look at like his progress last year, obviously it's not the peak performance we saw from Rio back in Season 3 and so on, but if he can get close to that, combined with Forgiven, combined with Odo Amne, this lineup will challenge Origin for that #1 spot. They have to. So it's very, very good for Europe now that we can honestly have higher expectations for H2K than we did last year.
Yeah, and I actually think they looked a little better than Fnatic at IEM Cologne.
Agree.
Both teams very, very new and very fresh, and there's been a lot of time since then. So I'm interested to see how the practice shakes out. And another team that has to practice to improve is going to be Vitality, because this is a team that you could consider like an EU super team. There's a lot of hype around these players. Cabo Shot is phenomenal early. Shook has got the ability to be game-changing, as does Nuktak, but both of these players are not the most consistent. So I think if those two like get a stable base, Vitality are also going to climb the ranks, in my opinion, and who's going to finish in that top 4?
Again, they have to finish top 4 with the player material they have here. Shant as well is the coach. I think he's a great coach, and Gambit last year praised him quite a lot. Now, obviously, they sold the spot here to Vitality. That's why we have the name change, but I look at this lineup as a bit of a Fanatic lineup from last year. Because you got like Cabochard, who's the Huni type, you know, he wants to be the carry. You can get him fed early on. You have a mid lane and Nuke Duck who can play the control style, but also pick up an assassin if needed. He's consistently doing well. And Yana Kasing in the bottom lane, the shot calling support, the team fighting AD carry. Shook is obviously the question mark here.
And
bringing him
Nuke Duck,
back.
And Nuke Duck.
Well, no, I think Nuke Duck has shown that he is a very, very good, consistent mid laner. He's more than average.
Well, we'll see.
He's a good mid laner.
We'll see, because I'm not a believer.
It's fine.
But if we look, I think, lower down the table in some of the squads we're going to see challenging maybe for the middle, I think you have to look at Splice and G2 Esports. Both of these teams, I think, have the ability to impress, right? Splice, they qualified as Dignitas EU, all Danish roster, a bunch of pretty high players, Senkax and Kobe. How is Trashy going to perform? Because NA was not the strongest for him. So, questions we want to see. And obviously G2, they've also imported some Korean players.
Again, 2 challenger teams coming in. We are really looking forward to that because the challenger teams coming in Europe are very good and they can challenge some of the top teams. They want to make playoffs. That's the goal, obviously. Learn as much as you can here in spring. Very exciting to see like Trick and Emperor. How can they perform? Communication for this team. Obviously not going to be a problem for Splice. There's Pulsar talk everywhere. And then Yamato Cannon trying to speak to them as well. On the other hand, though, bottom of the table, we got to look at teams like Elements and Rocket because there is very little hype around these teams coming into the split.
And both of these teams have players that have really struggled or simply not performed to challenge the best of the best. There's no like superstar players in either the Elements or the Rocket rosters.
And that's the thing, if you look at the rosters last year, you would have like Rocket, there would be like Nuke Dog as a guy we would highlight often, Yankos, Vander, but then it would be Mr. Rallis and Steve. They're not bad players, but they're a little bit further down the rankings. Now, it's been splitting up, the top players from that Rocket lineup had gone to H2K, had gone to Vitality, and then Steve and Rallis has gone down. So like, it's going to be difficult for these teams. They have to just try and survive, honestly. But then again, good communication, good strategy, that can be the key for you, even though you don't have the best players to
like
still do well.
Voltron, maybe combined their powers are greater. But anyways, I think that's just a little bit of an opinion on some of our players, and I do think we actually have to say goodbye to the European players that we did lose in 2015.